let's do it.
Hello and welcome to the All Blacks edition, episode 14. Hi, I'm Paul, the guy behind DrivingMaul, your best place for rugby predictions and opinion. And yes, we are coming to the end of Super Rugby, but that doesn't mean that there isn't All Blacks news as well. So we'll go through all of that this evening. And joining me, I have the one, the only, and if I can get him on screen, come on. It's just not working for some reason. Dearie me, I've all this technology, all the gear, no idea, I think is how they say it. But there you go, up you come. Oh, hi Ashwin, how are you doing?
I'm here.
You are there. Unfortunately, you're called Shane at the moment. Yeah. So we'll just change that. And I don't know why Herman came up. And we'll find your right name. There we go. Yep. Got you all nicely labelled up and everything. So,
and the great news is that I'm not tied up in the cricket committee meetings tonight. So we can talk rugby instead. Yay.
Yay. Who cares? It's cricket committee meetings. Have you been outside? It's freezing. Have you not seen I showed you my fire earlier. Jeez, what are you talking about cricket for? I don't know.
It's all for the children. Somebody think of the children.
So Ashwin's thinking of how he can send his children away for winter so they can keep warm. while he works in New Zealand. Yes, get them cricket scholarships in India. There we go. Yay! That's how we can get them away. Sorry, we've gone a slight tangent there. More black caps than All Blacks. But yeah, great to see you again. How have you been?
Oh, not too bad. Not too bad, actually. Yeah, doing quite well at the moment. Just sort of thinking about the termination of employment in a few weeks. But other than that, it's all good.
So here's a little hint for everybody. If you want to keep your job, don't come on the DrivingMaul show because he's not the only one that's heading towards unemployment as well. So, yeah, be careful about coming on the DrivingMaul show. You might lose your job. Anyway, talking to people...
We digress again, but we do that all the time.
Talking to people who aren't going to lose their jobs, Richard Mo'unga had an absolute blinder at the weekend.
He's ripping it up, isn't he? He's absolutely ripping it up, and he's putting his contenders to shame, really. Yeah, what else can you say? He's got that backline humming, and reality is it's the first five that makes the backline hum, and he's got them doing the right thing at the right time in the right part of the field.
But let's be fair here, isn't it? I mean, we talk about that the halfbacks pair or combinations of the scrum half and the fly half basically can only look good if they've got a pack going forwards. And if you're playing behind the Crusaders pack, which, let's be honest, is an entirely All Blacks pack with a Wallaby on the bench in Samu, that you've got to say, and again, a couple of All Blacks on the bench as well. I mean, Luke Romano, Wyatt Crockett, sure, he's going towards the end of his career, but he's got a few All Blacks caps to his name. It's kind of good. He's getting a bit of an armchair ride, isn't he?
Well, yeah, to paraphrase Steve Hansen, was playing behind a bit of a Rolls-Royce pack. Yeah, so he is playing behind a Rolls-Royce pack, if you couldn't understand Mbop language there. So, yeah, look, at the end of the day, a good first five, though, will still be able to get his team going forward as long as his pack that he's got is not totally inept. When you look at, I think it's the option taking that's really good. It just seems to be so right at the right time. The cross kick, I mean, there's no defence left. He puts a cross kick across, and Braden Enor, I think they'd come on at that stage, comes along and scores a try. So it's his option taking that's also, although he's playing behind the Rolls-Royce pack with the V8 motor, he's doing the right thing at the right time. And he's got some wheels on him as well.
Rolls-Royce, the V8. I think you need a bit more than the V8 in a Rolls-Royce. The heavy old car.
Yeah, I know.
Anyway, you're thinking of supercars, aren't you?
Yeah. I don't know that much about cars.
So you reckon? Oh, okay. I was going to say you reckon that Mo'unga's a Holden or a Ford man, but there you go. Maybe that's the problem. Maybe he's a Holden man, and therefore the All Blacks sponsors being sponsored by Ford they've said, look, no, mate, we don't want him there. He's a
Don't
holding
turn up,
boy.
don't turn up to training with the SS. The red line SS. Oops. Sorry, my bad. Look, I suppose, and that's one of our other topics for tonight, isn't it? Is that, but,
What, red line
I
SSs? I
haven't
haven't done my research on SSs. I'm sorry. I'm going to be found wanting if our other topic tonight is red line SSs.
No. But, in terms of, that's where you want to be able to see Richie behind a pack that's not going so well. And then you'll be able to find out whether he's, under pressure, how he's going to deliver.
And not only that, he's got, let's be honest, also he's got the All Blacks an All Black centre pairing in Crotty and Goodhue. Okay, Goodhue's maybe a bit green as far as All Blacks go, but even so, he's stood up very well this season. Out wide, Tumanavalu, All Black cap. At back, Havili, All Black cap. Sure, apart from Crotty, they're not first choice All Blacks caps in the backs there, but
they've been in the squad, got the experience.
They've been in there, yeah. And Bridge, well, okay, fine. He isn't an All Black cap, but hey, there's arguments to say he should be, or perhaps post Rugby World Cup. But he's hardly playing in the only player that you might say, "Ooh, how should we upgrade this side?" is perhaps the scrum half.
Yep, and either of them, both of them, they're both adequate. Maybe, adequate's a bit harsh. They're probably a bit more than adequate, really. But, they're not top draw.
But everyone else he's playing with is top draw.
Yep.
And so if you always play better around better players. So
absolutely.
Yes, he has been given the perfect shot window to show what he can do. The problem is that would he, when you get to international level, you don't have as much time. If the opposition is so much better that I'm not sure that he would shine as well. I mean, he's a good player, don't get me wrong, but Barrett Bodie is behind a much weaker pack, as we saw at the weekend, gone blank. DMAC is also has been behind a pack that's been missing an awful lot of players. So Richard Mwanga, I'd say, has had the perfect armchair ride. And there's definitely something that the All Blacks coaches don't see in him.
Yes.
The only way he got picked last season into the squad was through injuries.
Yep. And again, effectively this year as well, when he, he was in the French, he was brought in for the French squad, wasn't he?
Only after injuries.
Yeah, exactly. So I think it's Matt Todd syndrome. He'll be there or thereabouts on the periphery of the All Blacks environment. He'll probably get picked up in the Rugby Championship squad, but there is something in them that at the moment the All Black selectors aren't putting him at the top of the pecking tree. Sorry,
it caught me mid-drink there. For those of you on the podcast, he's not. They see something there. I guess that a lot of us don't see, because he is a quality player. But I think that they're clearly going for a different style of play. He's much more your standard, or your standard's the wrong word, but your classic is what I'm looking for there. Your classic fly half, but he has got a step on him. He has got some pace. But let's be honest, he hasn't got the full bag of tricks and the dancing feet that Barrett and Damien McKenzie bring. That X Factor. He has a different style of X Factor. He's much more of a classic one. You're right. He does have pace, but I think what the All Blacks selectors are definitely trying to move the game forward style wise, and trying to have a much more dancing player there.
And to be honest, let's face it, in that semi-final game, the Hurricanes were a little bit. They were missing on defence, in the sense that they, after the first couple of times when Moanga broke, they just never changed the defensive pattern to shut him down. They still kept going wide. So we're digressing onto the weekend's game, but what I'm getting at there is the fact is that he hasn't been put at pressure in that game. He wasn't put in pressure at 10, so he had plenty of time to look good because there was nobody running at him. And the first thing that any number 7 should be doing is running at number 10 and smashing him late. I mean, I'm sorry, putting him down in a good tackle.
And those of you that are cynical, saying that the All Blacks cheat, I've no idea where that kind of opinion may come from. And that they're dirty players. No idea at all.
Well, that's a global sevens job description, isn't it? I wouldn't say specifically just an All Black sevens job description.
Well, if you watched France play Ireland a couple of years ago, that was definitely the order of the day. Was how many times can we hit Johnny Sexton late?
Get Sexton. That's a movie title. No, look, I mean, it's that is the job of the flanker, is to shut down that inside channel, and it's to put pressure. And we have to say, in the last two games, where the volume's gone up in terms of what the games are, what's on the line. That channel really hasn't been plugged.
So I was just saying that we haven't seen him behind a non-dominant pack. So is it time that we had a probables versus possibles style game where he would be on the possibles side of things, on a pack that wouldn't be quite so dominant? I mean, it's something that the Wallabies are doing this Friday. Is it something the All Blacks need to bring back?
Let's just tick that segue box there. Nicely done.
I thought so. Absolutely.
Yeah. Awesome. Yeah, look, I was, in my head, I'm sort of thinking, this wouldn't actually work for what we want, what we just talked around, is that you've got, a final for the Super Rugby on Saturday night. Why wouldn't you bring in all the other, available, Super Rugby players who are All Black eligible into a game for Friday night, and put in a trials type possibles versus probables match? As I said, again, Richie would miss out, and we wouldn't get that testing happening. But I mean, in terms of timing, that's where we could slot it in. So absolutely, there should be a game on Friday night. That's a trial game.
And would you go possible versus probables, or should we be doing North Island versus South Island?
So obviously going back, rolling back the years, as Simply Red said.
For those of you over 60 who can remember who Simply Red are.
Is that there was you used to have possibles versus probables, and there used to be North versus South, in more recent times, but still rolling back the years, the North-South became a bit of an origin type scenario where you played in the island of origin that you actually came from. So, but in saying that, the line that divided the islands was actually not the Cook Strait.
Somewhere north of Wellington.
Yeah, basically. So, that's a nice concept though, and there's a bit more on the line, I suppose, a bit more in the match, a bit of needle. So I think the Origin North-South type match on the Friday night as a trial would be a good idea.
The other way of doing it is also to have the All Blacks versus the New Zealand Barbarians, for example, would be another way of doing it, or have maybe have a Maori All Blacks versus the New Zealand Barbarians.
Yeah, absolutely. But I think I prefer the old, North-South Origin or the probables, possibles, because you're breaking down the teams a bit more. If you put rolling out a shadow All Blacks side against the Barbarian side, you might get, you're getting one team that's probably going to be quite a bit more dominant than the other.
Well, the idea would be that
under pressure.
Well, the idea would be that the shadow All Black side is your probables, and the other one is the other one. JMC says, why doesn't Super Rugby go back to the old ways, such as top team versus top? Oh dear, sorry, JMC. It's an All Blacks edition tonight. We're not a Super Rugby one. You should have called us last night for that. But yeah, not tonight for that one, I'm afraid. The other, I'm actually now going to. I mean, this one I was all pro for before, actually, when we were doing the notes and before we actually had the chat. But now I'm going to go absolutely against it, because what I think we should be really happening. Yes, we have happenings that really should be happening around. Is that the All Blacks, minus obviously the teams in the final, should go off like they did versus Samoa and head off to the islands and play a Pacific Island team as a warm-up game rather than the probables versus possibles. I think so. That's what I think should be happening. The Wallabies should be also going, and the Maori All Blacks should also be going. So all three teams going and playing one of the Pacific Islands. Oh, no worries, JMC. We're happy to talk about that another night. But yeah, do come back on probably on a Tuesday night for Super Rugby chat.
Well, and JMC, we'll chuck that down on our notes for next Tuesday show. But yeah, look, absolutely, we've done, done that one to death almost in terms of the inclusion of the Pacific Island teams in terms of internationals and giving them exposure. And as a couple of years ago, there was season over for about 3, I think it might have been around semi-finals time, that they actually the All Blacks went and played Samoa effectively as a midweek game, because I remember coming home from work with my mate Terry and having a few beers and sitting down and watching the game. So yeah, absolutely. Well, Australia, All Blacks and Maori All Blacks or some other team anyway. You're playing Fiji, Samoa, Tonga.
Absolutely. And maybe even one for Cook Islands as well. Perhaps we're stretching a little bit there for that one.
Yeah, that might be a 150-point game. I think there's more Cook Islanders. Well, actually, there's more Samoans living in Auckland than there are in Samoa. So definitely more Cook Islanders living here in New Zealand than there are in the Cook Islands.
Well, yes, but maybe one of the Mitre 10 Cups teams could go and have a warm-up game against their international side. Because they have been playing some Rugby World Cup warm-up games, or Rugby World Cup qualifying games recently, weren't they? So yes, so that's what I think they should be doing, rather than necessarily hedging the probables, possibles, and the Wallabies should be doing that. Talking about the number of Samoans that live in Auckland, what we've seen recently, we've seen a couple of players deciding actually not to play for the All Blacks. We've got Brad Shields obviously going to join England. Samu has decided that the gold of the Wallabies is much more to his taste and to his bank account taste as well than the All Blacks. Did they gold the Wallabies for bank account? Fantastic money. Never mind. You're not laughing. No one else is. So we've got a couple of players there that have decided actually that All Blacks isn't the way to go. And do you think we're going to see some more players sort of have to make that choice?
Well, first of all, 5 stars next to the tick for the segue again, so that's really good. It's crazy for them not to, isn't it? I mean, when you look at some of the players that we're talking about, you could go play international rugby. Why wouldn't you? I mean, they're good players. That they're going to add value to those international teams, and so yeah, absolute no-brainer for me in terms of some of those guys. I think, not that he's on the list of names that I can see in the article that I've got up in front of me, but someone like a Vince Arso, popping up for Samoa. Look, the chances of him that midfield for the All Blacks is absolutely chocker in terms of candidates. So why not throw your bag in with your lot and with, some of your heritage. You playing for your country of heritage. He was born in Auckland, but, obviously got the links back to Samoa.
Some of the other players that have done this, obviously got Maitland's gone off to Scotland. Has been playing for Scotland. We've got Lowe, who's playing for Leinster at the moment, who may qualify for Ireland. So he's slightly different. He's on residency, whereas Maitland's did it through Ancestry. We've also got Gareth Anscombe, who relatively recently went and played for Wales. So we are referring to an article in one of the New Zealand national papers that we think is actually awful. So hence, I'm not going to give them the airtime. But they're sort of shouting, "Oh, it's about to happen. It's going to be lots of it because of Samu and Brad Shields." But this is something that's been happening for a few years, hasn't it? This isn't anything that's particularly new.
No, it's not new at all. And before we go much further, we must make sure that we give homage to someone who started the trend early days, Shane Howarth, who qualified to play for Wales through a grandmother that didn't exist. But anyway. Well, a Welsh grandmother that didn't exist. He did have a grandmother.
Well, you'd hope so, wouldn't you?
Yeah. But no, look, it's not something that just happened yesterday, or it's just going to happen tomorrow. It's been something that's been going on for a while. I mean, you know, the first choice hooker when not injured for the for Paul's favourite white team, the English, is Dylan Hartley, who's a Rotorua old boy.
Before we stop sort of painting me in some sort of Ku Klux Klan person here, when we say white team, we're talking about the fact that we're talking about the colour of the jersey that England wear.
No, on a show that's called All Blacks Edition.
Deary me.
But anyway, yes, but it's been happening. It's been happening going back. I mean, like, you know, doing the Dylan Hartley thing in reverse. John Gallagher, who played in the '87 World Cup winning team for the All Blacks, was there's no way, but it was obvious that he's an Englishman. He was white as. He was pasty white. But, you know, fantastic player. But, you know, so it's obviously been happening in both directions, and it's just, I suppose, starting to become a bit more in your face. I don't know. I can't think of another term at the moment. But
I think there's also definitely an element of money that's involved in it now. So an England international gets paid £20,000 per game they play. So that's definitely.
Some like paid anything, but anyway, there's a story.
Whereas when they play for some of the island players, complain they don't get paid at all. So there's definitely a monetary side of it. I could do with a season of England games to buy myself a house. It would be quite nice. Just put me on the bench. I don't actually have to maybe come on for the last minute. I can avoid a tackle or two. So there is that. But JMC's got a kind of question. Obviously, so we're talking about these players coming from New Zealand and going to play overseas for other teams. So I'm trying to bring a question up here. But JMC's one says, do you think it's possible for a player to make the All Blacks when playing Super Rugby for Australia or any other country outside of New Zealand? Do you want to tell Ashwin?
Sorry, I was typing. So can you just repeat the question?
Repeat the question. Sorry, Bas Pundit, we'll get onto your question later, don't worry. JMC, do you think it's possible for a player to make the All Blacks when playing Super Rugby for Australia or any other country outside of New Zealand?
That's no. Because at the moment, the criteria to be eligible for the All Blacks is that you have to be playing in New Zealand or in a New Zealand-based Super Rugby team.
Yeah, so they won't. Now, there is a possibility that players will come back from playing overseas and then try and re-qualify. And we've seen players, Rennie Ranger, trying to do it prior to the last Rugby World Cup. We saw McAllister.
Jerome Kino was classic, actually, because they actually gave him a leave pass for a year to go away from New Zealand rugby in total. He went and played up in Japan and refreshed the body, and then came back and played starts playing Super Rugby again, eligible for the All Blacks, and was selected.
And we've even seen Sonny Bill Williams go across to Australia, play a bit of rugby league, sign up to play the next season of Super Rugby, but because his contract has started, he hasn't actually had to play any Super Rugby that season, and still got on the November tour. So there are some examples, but they have to be contracted to play Super Rugby to be able to play. So that can be, but it doesn't have to be for that season or that year, I should say. It can be for the following year, as we've seen in Sonny B. Williams' case, where he came back. I think he maybe had one Mitre 10 Cup game, and they went on the November tour. So there are players that it has happened to like that, but generally it'll be ones who have already been capped, gone overseas and come back again. I don't think we'll see a fresh cap, a debutant come in the same way that someone like, say, Teo did for England, where he was playing for Leinster in Ireland, or Underwood, who was playing for Cardiff, or one of the teams in Wales. Sorry, it wasn't Cardiff. I've gone blank. But he signed up for Bath for the following season. Teo had signed up for Worcester for the following season, and therefore went on the June tour. A bit like this time when Brad Shields, he signed up for Wasps, and hence he became eligible to be selected for England and went on the June tour to South Africa. I can't see that kind of thing happening in New Zealand, where someone comes back with comes for their debutante game.
Well, I'm sort of thinking we don't know.
Going 90s big fish, little fish cardboard box there. I'm not sure what this was.
Sort of like, the podcast people won't be knowing what we're talking about. My hands were going all over the place like an Italian.
That's why the big fish, little fish cardboard box. They can visualize that.
Yeah. Look, at the end of the day, you can't, the All Black dominance, you can see being there for a few more years, but at some stage, there's going to be changes. Obviously, with professional rugby, we're seeing that it's getting harder and harder to keep the top quality players at home. And so some of these rules that they have around being, contracted to a New Zealand, contracted locally, i.e. having a New Zealand contract, that stance is going to have to change. It's just a question, is it in 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, 50 years? But at some stage, it's going to have to change.
Yeah, and I think, so we've seen that before, haven't we? We've seen it up until recently. New Zealand's been able to keep their first 30 players, basically. Nick Evans was perhaps the exception that proved the rule, when he left. But it wasn't really until Charles Piatow went that basically New Zealand started to lose those players from the 23 to 30 range. And then they've been able to keep their first choice 23, but we've seen players like Fekitoa, now Lima Swanga going, Cruden. So all these players are players that are definitely within the 30-man squad, perhaps being pushed out of the 23. So at the moment, New Zealand's being able to keep their best 23 players. The question is when's that going to start getting eroded? Because the top 30 has definitely been eroded already.
It's interesting you mentioned Sopoaga. It's just like, obviously our first topic for the night was Richie Mo'unga. And it's just like, well, would he even get a look in if Lima Sopoaga was still around? Because he was actually number 3, first 5 for the All Blacks. And you go back to his debut at Loftus and it was sensational. So you're starting to see some of the, within the 30 or, that are starting to go, but there's not the avalanche that's quite happened. And when that avalanche does happen, they'll have to review their, what do they call it? Their,
policy.
Just can't, queer, your policy.
Yeah, we'll have to see. I mean, I think it's when the 23 starts to get eroded that they'll have to think about it. As long as they can get their first choice 23, I think they're going to be can keep with it, because they know that as soon as they do let the door ajar, that it will get slammed straight open.
Yep. There'll be a rush out the door. Yeah. Yep. There'll be a stampede. The interesting thing is that they're getting away with it because of the fact is that the rugby player factory is just working so well at the moment, that somebody's leaving and they are able to get somebody coming in that can fill the boots. I mean, but they're probably getting away with it because you've still got a good number of very experienced players that those guys can be around, sort of thing. But if you start getting very good players coming through the factory, but the experience isn't there to lead them, that will cause a problem, and that'll start the avalanche process.
Yeah, and I mean, some of the things we've seen, we've already seen the players like Sopoaga, Cruden would have stayed around longer historically. Definitely Fekitoa would have stayed around a lot longer historically. We're seeing them go. And what we're seeing is a change actually in the market value from Europe. Is that previously you got your 50 caps or your All Blacks caps, then you could then use that. That was an investment that would pay off later. Now you're finding you get those 10 caps, and whether you've got 10 caps or 50 caps, actually because you're younger, you might actually get paid more and get more money. And so I think the economics behind how the European teams are choosing players has changed as well, and they're willing to pay more earlier you don't have to get that 50 cap mark.
And rolling this right back to our where we started on this topic is the players that aren't likely to make the All Blacks and where they should make themselves available for the international teams. It's just like, well, by playing for an international team, they're actually increasing their value on the market. So it is a good idea for them to get that go and play for your Samoas, Fijis, Tongas, and get that exposure and put more value on yourself.
Oh, so you've brought us back to that. So here, we're going to list a few players that, and we'll go through these, and maybe we'll discuss some of them. Other ones, maybe we'll just go with a yes, no, as to who should they get themselves an All Black, should they stick around for an All Blacks cap and risk being a one cap wonder. So first off, Vince Arso, the one you've talked about already. You've already suggested that perhaps he shouldn't wait for the All Blacks. He should go for Samoa.
He should go get Sonny in Samoa.
Go get Sonny Bill Williams in Samoa. No, okay. No, go get Sonny.
With this, well, get warmer in Samoa.
Warmer in Samoa. So, I'm a great fan of his, but two reasons why I think he should consider that Samoa piece, and then using that as a platform for Europe, is that at the Hurricanes, first off, you've got Jack Goodhue, Anton Leonard-Brown, Crotty, all in front of him for that 13 jersey.
At the All Blacks.
At the All Blacks level. So the chances of him of him getting a bunch of All Blacks caps is pretty slim. And secondly, he seems to have not even be first choice for the Hurricanes, and that Proctor's considered first choice there ahead of him.
Even before he got injured.
So the only reason he got to start so much last season was Proctor was injured all season. And again, this season, Proctor's been chosen ahead of him. So for me, I think that's two reasons why he perhaps should think about going overseas. He's 24. He has time. There is no rush for him to go overseas, let's be honest. That's the
other interesting thing, I think. I mean, I suppose it's hard to gauge, but you get the sense that these guys like playing in the New Zealand rugby scene. So that's one thing. Enjoy your rugby, and because you can still go 26, 27. There's still plenty of years left, and you can make plenty of money still within that time period and go play in Europe. Obviously, there's only one obvious thing there is the fact is that injuries you don't know around which could be around any corner.
Yeah, injuries could be around any corner. There is definitely that point. But there is also the element of if you go overseas at 23, are you going to go off the rails? Because playing in New Zealand where you've got your support network around you while you're still an immature fella. I'm not saying this is not about. This is not actually a comment about Vince Arso's character. I've never met him, never talked to him. I don't know what his character's like. But I'm just talking about in general, guys of that kind of age. It's easy to go off the rails, and so sometimes it is better to stay in that environment that you know where you're being looked after and supported, and then head overseas when you're a bit more mature as well. So there is that side of it.
Yeah. Quite a big difference in maturity between a 24-year-old generally, but 24-year-old and a 27-year-old.
Yeah, and one of those players that has shown that up to me is Nadolo. Is an example of that. Went over to France, annexed to Chiefs, and wasn't that successful. Came back, got himself sorted out, and he admits that he sorted himself out. Was for me the best winger in Super Rugby when he was at Crusaders, and has gone back overseas to France, and is making a very good show of it now on his second time over there. So there's a lesson in how it can go. So we both reckon that Arso probably should look at the Samoa option for the Rugby World Cup, even for in Japan. Next one, Jimmy Tuopu.
Oh yeah, he's not going to make it in the All Blacks.
I think who he's what his second nationality would be.
I think he's Samoan as well. I think I'm pretty sure. I could be wrong, but.
So the for the Blues and counties Manukau. Let's see if we can figure out which. Again, born in Auckland, you think he's of Samoan heritage, do you?
I think it's a total wild guess. Tell you the truth, though.
Yep, can't see which one it is. But yeah, so you think, yeah, agreed. I can't see him getting an All Blacks cap at the moment. Again, he's 25, a bit older than Arso. So yeah, so I think he should go.
Actually younger than I thought.
Joan Makalali.
Yeah, look, he should go play for Fiji. Simple fact is that we don't. Geez, there's so many wingers coming along anyway. Is he going to get looked at? I don't know. Yeah, it's a tough one. It's a tough one. But he's at the moment he's not. He's been on the bench for the Crusaders, or is he? Yeah, exactly. Is he injured? So really haven't seen much.
We haven't seen much of him this season. So yeah, so I think again, he should definitely go play for Fiji and use that to be as a springboard. Personally, he's 27.
Yeah, definitely.
And if we look at someone like Julian, I mean, he's basically about Julian Severe's age, and Julian Severe's All Blacks career is over. So I think the chance of him making it to the All Blacks now is pretty slim.
Yeah.
Another Crusader winger, Manasala Matiali.
Look, it's a tough one, isn't it? Because I mean, again, they're not getting game time, are they? Are we seeing them in the for the Crusaders? They're not getting game time for the Crusaders. Again, it's just those outside backs. We're just pumping them out. So you're better off. I mean, like to again for them to go play for Fiji. The Fiji's growing in quality in terms of their international. So let's face it, go.
Well, this one I'm going to say actually no. I think he can wait. He's 21. He's much younger than these guys. It's his first season in Super Rugby this season. Tumanavalu is heading overseas, so next season he should be getting that. He's got a very good chance of getting a starting spot on that wing, unless Israel Dad comes back fit. And so I think he's got a good chance of putting in a. The
other. Sorry.
So I think, he's only had 2 seasons at Taranaki. This will be his 3rd season at Taranaki. I think he should give it 2 or 3 years first before necessarily jumping to Fiji.
But you know what some of these guys should be doing? I think we should be looking at sevens.
There's no money in sevens.
Oh, look, if you can get it. No, but the thing is that if you look at Manasa Mateali, he's I think he actually was part of the sevens squad. I could be wrong on that because I get lots of things mixed up. I'm getting old. But I believe he was part of the sevens squad. So, you get noticed, you get picked up, you get a sevens contract. Sure, like obviously below an international, there's no money in it. And even someone like a Tavita Lee, who we're going to talk about next sort of thing coming up, as well. These guys with a bit more space around them, they could be sensational.
They could be. I think Matalelli should give Super Rugby another couple of seasons first, and then see what he thinks, see where he's at. Because I say next season, I think he'll be a starter for the Crusaders, and we'll see where he goes from there.
Yep. Goes from there.
Whereas I think he's
only 21. You say
he's only 21, which makes him a lot younger than the other players. The next one though is Tavita Lee.
Mm-hmm.
As you say, which one?
Tavita. Yeah, sorry.
So let's put some. So he's 23. Has had a couple of seasons at the Blues. Had a season at the Highlanders. Got 12 starts this season. What do you think?
Look, it's such a difficult one with Tavita Lee. It's just like, is he ever going to sort of show that maturity level I'm talking about on the rugby field here? Because, he was, as an 18-year-old, he was going to be a fantastic winger. He was going to be a massive hit on the international scene for the All Blacks. There was the under-20s World that happened here in New Zealand that he was a star, and but he's never really sort of he's played well, but never been the consistent explosive player at that top level that sort of says, I'm an All Black and I'm going to wear a black jersey.
Yeah. So for the 2014 Junior Rugby World Championship, he scored 7 tries in 5 games. The following year in the Under-20s Championship in 2015, he scored 6 tries in 5 games. So you say fantastic at that level. One of the things that I've done before is I've done a couple of where are they now kind of pieces, looking at some of the Under-20s Rugby World Championship winning sides and where they've got onto, because they are the best in their age group. But when they come out of that environment, they go into Super Rugby. Then suddenly you've got guys who are 21 up to 35. You're not talking about the best in 1 year. You're talking about being the best in 14 years. And there's a whole bunch of guys that are a lot more experienced than you, and it's a big step up. So yes, he was the best of a year, but so far hasn't shown to be anywhere near the best of across 14 years.
You have glimpses of him, sort of like this season in particular. You've seen some glimpses thinking, oh, here we go. Maybe he's getting comfortable at the level and he's starting to show what he can do. But then towards the end of the season, particularly, when didn't really produce it.
Yeah, he's 23. There's still some time, but he's starting to run out of time.
I think he's out of time.
I don't think he'll make it as an All Black. So if he has, again, born in Auckland, I'm not sure which where his parents are from, but yeah, I can't see him making the All Black. So if he's got another option, which it sounds like he has, then I think he should probably take that. So 2 more. Tony Pulu.
Tony Pulu, he's someone that should stick around. He's someone that, you look at how he performs for the Chiefs, and a number of the tries that he actually scores is when there's nothing on and he creates something. So, I actually think Tony Pulu should, stick around. I like his play. I think that, again, there's just so many outside backs for the All Blacks, but he's one that I think if he wants that black jersey, he should give it a shot.
I'm going to disagree with you. He's 28 now, so I think his chance has come and gone, he should. He was actually born in the States, so so born in LA in the USA, with the Major League Rugby. So he could play for America with Major League Rugby having kicked off. Then I think if I were him, I would be having a very serious look at that. But he has played 7s for Nui, so I'm not sure if that's going to if that caps him. Maybe they've got that wrong in the article. Maybe he's actually tied to Nui now because he has played 7s for them.
Interesting.
So yeah,
right.
I'm not sure about that one.
Well, then he can't play for the All Black anyway. Then
maybe not. If he was available for the USA though, then I think Major League Rugby and the USA would be a fantastic place for him to go. I don't think he'll ever make it as an All Black. Final one then, Malani Nanai, someone you've seen plenty of for the Blues.
He's in the Tavita Lee camp actually, because you can see the potential, you can see what he can do. Just doesn't do it consistently enough, and in fact, the odd wrong call as well, which is really bad. As opposed to no caller, the wrong call is really bad. So if he's got ties where he can play for somebody else, you probably want to be looking at that. Yeah. Unless he can pull something out of the bag for a season next year, but other than that, I don't see it.
Yeah, 24, born in Samoa, played for the Samoan under 20s in 2013. 5 appearances, 3 tries. I think he should definitely look at his options with Samoa personally, because I can't see him ever making it to into the All Blacks. To be honest, you say he has the skills, but he does not have the consistency to be there. So yeah, I would definitely be considering that if I were him. Has played for the Barbarians against South Africa up in Europe as well. Interestingly enough, that was in 2016. But yeah, so I think he would should make a move there. Because some of these players will not make the squad in the future. They should probably go overseas. Exactly. But it was just a fun one in what is, let's be honest, quite a quiet week for the on All Blacks news to have a look at some of those players there. So JMC goes, are there standards within the All Black squad to maintain the high class of rugby they express each year? And how do they keep such a strong player skill base across the spectrum of world rugby? Ooh, geez. Okay.
Yeah, look, I mean, to answer that, it's quite, this is sort of simplistically answering it. Well, so, I suppose sort of simplistically answering it. What the All Blacks say is that you're a custodian of the jersey and your responsibility is to leave it in a better shape than what you received it in. And when you go into a team with that sort of mantra, with that sort of thinking pattern, you're not wanting to let the jersey down, for starters, and for the previous players that have worn it before you. So realistically, that's what drives a lot of the All Black players, is to make sure that they basically leave the legacy of the jersey in a better state than when they received it.
Now, and at the top end, that's part of it. I mean, another part of it is they've said clearly before is there are plenty of players who have the skills, but they don't necessarily have the character that they want, and they'll turn down, and that. It's all about the team. It's all about the character. If you've not got the right character, you're not going to stick. You'll come in, maybe have one training camp, and you'll never see the training camp again. So there's that side of it as well. But why does New Zealand? And it's a New Zealand thing rather than All Blacks thing. There is at the top end, the All Blacks, the jersey, the mystique around it does bring the best out in players. It also helps that they do have this character piece, but they can choose. They can use that character selection because they have enough players of skill quality to choose from. And the reason they have that is, when I used to go drop off my daughters at primary school, what are all the kids doing in the playground beforehand? They're playing touch rugby. This is your 7, 8, 9-year-olds. When you go to the beach or a picnic in Auckland, and you go to Mission Bay, what are they all doing? They're all playing touch rugby. There's a couple of tag rugby games going on. So they've even taken the kit down. You've got the families who have literally wheeled out their barbecue onto the grass there. There'll be a couple of games of volleyball going on as well, but you will not see any football. There is no soccer going on there. And I say at the primary school that my girls go to in Auckland, again, you'd never see soccer. They're always throwing a ball around. There might be some people playing basketball, but there'll definitely be a touch rugby game going on as well when you go to drop them off. So that's why when they say if you were basically born with a ball in their hands, okay, it's not that literal, but as soon as they're at school, as soon as they're 6, yes, it is.
They lie down, you do the classic, you put the kid down on the old mat on the floor in the middle of the lounge, and then you go get your soft rugby ball and you put it by the hand, and he's going like this. Sorry, podcast people, you can't quite see what I'm doing, but... So,
yeah. And that's part of it. In the UK, people are playing soccer on the whole. In Australia, you've got them probably, if you drive around Melbourne, every single school, even preschool, has got 4 AFL posts up because they're all playing AFL there. If you go to, and that's why Melbourne's so good at AFL. So in South Africa, there'll be a lot of people who play football. There'll be a lot of people who play rugby as well. But that's what it is. It's in New Zealand. As soon as they play any kind of sport, apart from sort of climbing on a climbing frame as a kid, the next exercise kids do is riding a bike, throwing a ball, and learning to swim. And that's why New Zealand is so good at rugby, and that's why they have the high level. It's because so many people just are touching a ball and throwing it around from such a young age.
Yep. Although you go to you can go to parts of Auckland where you won't see a rugby ball, like my son's school.
Really?
Where it's all a bunch of Indians or Chinese kids, and there's not a lot of. He's the one that he takes a rugby ball out. He's doing the drills that we do at our training, our ripper training, and he's taking the kids through that. Yes.
Oh dear. So that's why they're so good. Why is India so good at cricket? You walk around, everyone's playing cricket from a very young age. And actually, Bas Pundit's made the exact same point as I just said. Yeah, that's why people. That's why India is so good at cricket. It used to be hockey, but that's fallen away now. And it's
it's interesting with the India and the cricket thing because it's a recent thing where they're consistently good now. Because if you go back in history, that used to be the big question mark. Why the hell is India so poor at cricket when they've got so many people playing it? But So it's an interesting thing. It's an interesting phenomenon that they've obviously looked at how the All Blacks harness the playing numbers and use that
or maybe
formula.
Or maybe
not.
Or maybe they just stop picking their mates and people from certain states. And yeah.
Well, actually, it was interesting because Indian the teams the state teams were effectively like Japanese rugby. They're actually like corporates.
Oh yeah, I mean because Air India, the railways, they all have they all have their corporate teams, don't they? Absolutely. I have played in some hockey tournaments in Hong Kong where by coincidence the Air India international hockey player has managed to organise himself that he's working on the flights to Hong Kong and pops in and plays the second day of a tournament for the Indian team at the tournament. So yes, there are some. Some did you say some corporate perks around that kind of side of things, but again, you say India had that. It's taken them a while for that to sort it out, and New Zealand had that problem as well for a while. They I can't remember when it was, but they lost one of the Rugby World Cups. And they came back and went, okay, guys, we've got all this talent.
Actually, yeah. We had the Bledisloe Cup missing for quite before this stint that we've actually had it. We actually went for quite a few years without having it, actually.
And what happened was the Rugby New Zealand sat down and went, okay, everything from now on is going to be geared towards the All Blacks winning. And part of that was they wanted to trim down the number of teams in the NPC. And why we have the Mitre 10 Cup now that we have, which is with a Premiership and a Championship. New Zealand Rugby didn't quite get what they wanted. They wanted to just have one probably closed group.
One tier.
How many teams it was, but there was an uprising, and they didn't cut it back as far as they wanted to. But still, they stopped promotion and relegation. So Heartland Championship teams can't get into the Mitre 10 Cup now, whereas previously I think it was probably promotion and relegation all the way down.
Division 1, 2, 3,
and that got changed so that players were always in a professional environment, were always ready were getting prepared for the All Blacks, and everything that New Zealand Rugby does now is around making sure the All Blacks are successful. There's a little bit now also around trying to make the Black Ferns successful too, but 90% of their effort goes towards one team in one way or another, and that's another part of it. Cool.
That's better.
We've not done bad for having nothing to talk about.
So, we always manage to, don't we?
So what should people do, Ashwin?
What should people do? They should like this podcast, get it onto their podcast devices and their apps and stuff, and then they should make sure that they give it 5 stars because there's other stars available. But why would you want to? Yeah, and give likes and thumbs up and good stuff like that. Good stuff like that.
If you hadn't guessed, Ashwin wasn't ready for that question. So yes, please tell all your friends, like, share, retweet, all of that kind of wonderful stuff. And if you'd like to support us financially, please become Patreons of Driving Maul, so we can buy Ashwin a microphone like I've got, which would be really good. So become a Patreon for as little as $1 a month. Go to Patreon, patreon.com/drivingmaul to become a Patreon. If you're on Twitter, it's links in the tweet. In YouTube, it's down below in the comments and all that kind of stuff. So please do consider that as well. Yes. In fact, for as little as a beer a month, maybe. I'm sorry, everyone on the podcast won't have noticed that. So do that. I'll be back tomorrow night giving you my preview of the Super Rugby final. Hopefully we'll have both the teams line announced by then. And the Lions don't wait until midnight. Hey, thank you very much, and enjoy whatever you're watching this weekend.